business. Does that make sense? Michael?
Sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, it makes sense. So for the metrics piece, is that through integration with Prometheus? Like, can you use our API to pull your monitor? Like, how would you actually get that data back?
Yeah, so we use some of this information to export data to Prometheus, but note that Prometheus is, again, it's sort of opinionated, right? Like it forces you down a model and how you need to think, and the API or the SDK access is completely unopinionated. It says like, look, I'm just going to use the raw data. You go figure out what you want to make out of this. So it's a little bit different there in the sense that we're not just my point is this. We're not taking our Prometheus integration and calling it an SDK. That's not what this is. We already have the Prometheus integration, and the DevOps guys can use that as they're using Prometheus to monitor multiple infrastructure components. This thing, while some of this SDK was involved in exporting the data to Prometheus, it's sort of the other way around. It's now the platform programmer, like think David Arbuckle, for example, at Comcast. He and his team can directly use our API to get whatever metrics they want, bypass Prometheus, wire that input directly into their Comcast platform that they're building. The Comcast platform that they're building, right, this provisioning platform, that is the single pane of glass or the conduit through which his customers can go in and deploy applications. But at the same time, it's also his window into being able to do things like analytics, capacity planning, and all of that. And he can do this in a very Comcast-specific way now, whatever that means.
Okay, great. And what so examples with that? Like, can you like what are some examples of metrics that we expose in the API? IO maybe?
Or... Give you an example, like IO, yes. So if he has a Comcast-specific way to generate alerts to his data center teams when there's high IO load, or he's seeing greater than normal system load, and what is that? He gets to decide now what is greater than normal system load for Comcast. So it's a very Comcast-specific decision he gets to make, and then he can wire it into his business practice. So what do I mean by that? Maybe there's a way in which they log a ticket so that somebody in the data center gets an alert and can go in and check on a disk. Everything there that I said, nothing about that is generic, right? It's not something that's going to work for any other customer. It's a very Comcast-specific workflow, but he gets to program to that because he has access to our API, and then he can create his Comcast-specific platform that does things in a very tailored fashion. He wouldn't be able to do that if all we gave him was a GUI or just some REST endpoints, or he would do it very awkwardly and it probably would break and not work very well. So now with this, he can actually create a very custom tailored Comcast platform to complete the rest of the workflow. So what this enables him to do is create an intelligent platform, reduce system administrators, and reduce basically OpEx, because the platform is intelligent enough to, by way of our API, querying system load and saying, hey, there's a rack over here. I've determined, give you an example. We're just giving him raw metrics, and he knows how his data center is architected, and he understands his definition of rack, and he can say, hey, I've now put together something more intelligent that's detecting a rack has a hotspot, and I'm going to generate now an alert to somebody that manages the rack as opposed to disks. And so the alert goes to the right person, and then the person can go up to the rack and see if there's something wrong with the switch. But that's a very Comcast-specific workflow that he can now enable.
Yep.
And I'm kind of making a scenario up over here, but that's the point behind this, that every customer gets to make their own scenario up.
Yep, got it. Okay, well, I think that gives me enough. This is really good. I actually think this would be a good topic for a new stack as well. Kind of like why storage needs to be programmable too, or something like that.
Yeah, and it's kind of like it's a couple of important points that I make is it's about programmable infrastructure. What here's the points, right? And that we somehow figure out a way to nicely tie these independent points into a story. One is um, the it used to be that there were data center admins who would statically configure your infrastructure, and so if you're going to do static configuration, GUI is good enough. In fact, it's preferred. You just click a few buttons and things are up and running. But the problem behind that is it's statically configured infrastructure that somebody else has to now contort themselves around. Where people that's the opposite of cloud native way of deploying applications and consuming infrastructure, where things are more programmatic. So there comes my second point, which is a new wave of people are emerging in the IT infrastructure space, and these are infrastructure programmers. These are DevOps guys that know programming. They don't want a GUI. They know it's not just scripting. They know how to use REST. They know how to use Go, and they are using these skills to create an